You might want to be taking notes today because we're going to be covering designing with climate. And in order to design with climate, we first have to completely understand climate. Last week we had an introduction to the differences between climate and weather and how varied climates can be here in Southern California. Today we're going to delve in a little bit deeper into the different aspects of climate that you guys are going to have to kind of understand in order to design with it, okay? So I'm going to start out by looking at two resources that will give you kind of a generic climate picture of different areas, okay? So the first one that I want to talk to you guys about is weatherspark. weatherspark is a website that allows you to kind of get average weather for cities all over the world, okay? So if we, for example, type in something like Claremont, California, it'll bring up the average temperatures and it'll give us a variety of different sort of graphs, all right, along with several advertisements. They kind of give you a picture of what the climate's like there, okay? So you can use weatherspark and get kind of average temperatures for a variety of different locations. So what I was thinking is we take a quick look at comparing Claremont to Upland, so they're literally neighbors, and see if there's any temperature differential. So let's take a quick look at that. So I'm going to break this one sort of off of here, put this one at the halfway point, and then bring this one back to the halfway point also and slide it over. All right, so I'm just going to scroll down here to the average temperatures. We'll put the two graphs kind of side by side and take a look at them. So you can see that the average temperatures are pretty close to the same. They're slightly different, okay? Because I see a 92 right here and I see a 93 there. I see an 88 here and an 87 there, 87. So weatherspark gives you a wide range of charts that you guys can look at. So one of the charts and one of the primary factors that you guys are going to be looking at when designing with climate is going to include dry bulb temperature. So if we take a look at this kind of weather picture of these two cities sort of side by side, we start to get an idea of what it's like there. Now you guys live in these climate zones, and so you pretty much should know what it's like. How many of you guys had the heater on this morning? Yeah? So the heater was on at your house this morning? How many of you did not have the heater on and were running around in shorts? None of you? One person. Right? Were you cold? Yeah. Didn't you? You were cold? Right. So today was a cold day, right? When I got in my car at 5:45 in the morning to come here, the temperature outside was 40, I think it was 45. 45 is not comfortable for me. And inside my house, the heater kept coming on. I had the temperature set at 70 degrees. Overnight, we drop it down to like 65. But when I get up in the morning, I move it up to 70 degrees. So it kept cycling on, which tells me, right, that the house was losing heat to the outside, and the heater was having to turn on to pump warm air into the house. Okay? So take a look at this chart and see what we got. So the average low temperature in Claremont in March, right, is about 49 degrees. So today was a little cooler than that. And the average high temperature is 70. So today it will be a little warmer than that. Okay? But it's pretty close to, pretty close to the average. So when I asked how many of you needed to use some heat in your house today, most of you raised your hand. And those of you that didn't use heat told me you were cold. So I think from that we can surmise that if we have a daytime high of 70 degrees and an overnight low of 45 or 49, that we know that if it's colder than that, we're going to be using heat, right? Okay. And probably if it gets a little bit warmer than that, we might not have to do anything. So anyway, I want you guys to I'm going to give you guys some time to kind of go through the charts and start to understand them. Okay? So again, we'll compare these two charts, and you can see that they're pretty close to the same, right? If we wanted to contrast two things that are very different from each other that can cause some confusion, we might look at downtown LA. So I'm going to go back here and contrast. Oops, knock that one out of there. We'll take a look at comparing Los Angeles, California, which is what, about, with no traffic, we'd say that it's probably about 30 minutes from here, right? Is that about right? Okay. And you can see that they've got a much different temperature than us, okay? So their overnight low today was 53. And their daytime high is pretty much the same as ours. So there's a difference in temperature just in those areas. And you can take a look at their summer temperatures are much more benign than ours. 85 degrees is tolerable. When you get up into the 90s, that becomes a little bit harder to deal with. Okay? So, all right. So weatherspark is one of the sites. If we scroll down through, we'll see the average temperature sort of displayed in a different format. Using the months of the year, okay, and the time of day. So if you kind of think of this block as what the average January temperatures are like, February, March, you start to get a picture of what's going on in those bands, right? So if we look at that dark green, it's cold. We're not comfortable, right? The lighter green color is cool. So if we look at March, we've got part of the day, part of the morning that's cold, part of the midday or mid-morning that's cool, right? But the majority of March, if you look at this one, right here, right? That bar right there, the majority of the time is not comfortable, okay? So the orange band is the comfortable one. So again, this is just a different way of understanding the weather data. So again, we'll contrast that to downtown LA, and you can see there's a pretty big difference there. Okay? Just in case you're not aware of it, this sort of highlighted part, you see how it's got the little notches right there? Do you see those? That's sunlight hours versus the part on the other side is night hours, dark hours. Okay, the little jumps that you see right there are occurring when our daylight savings times occurs. Okay, that's why there's that jog in it. You notice that they both jog up and then they both jog down, right? You spring into summer, fall into winter. Okay, continuing on, cloud coverage is another one of those things that that's going to kind of come into consideration here, because cloud coverage is going to kind of translate to how warm it is in a given area. Okay, so you guys all been out towards Palm Springs, right? You know that it's sunny out there a large part of the year, and as such it's hotter out there than it is closer to the coast where we have a lot more cloud cover. Okay, chance of precipitation is a factor in considering. It's a factor to consider in climate, but it's not really one that you're going to be designing for too much in our climate area. One of the things to note about that is that it's going to be matched to the cloud cover. So, for example, if I scroll this one back up, you'll notice that when there is more cloud cover, there's more chance of rain, right, than when there is no cloud cover and it's clear. So those two charts are somewhat reciprocal of each other. This gives you a picture of the average rainfall, which again is not too crucial for us. And most of these next two are not too important. The temperature ones are the most important ones. Humidity levels are going to be one of those things that you do have to take into consideration. So it's important to kind of note the difference between the humidity levels in Los Angeles and the humidity levels in the inland valleys where we're at. Wind speed is a crucial thing in designing with climate. Okay? You guys all understand that air moving across our body, right, cools our body through evaporation off of our skin and removal of heat off of our skin. Okay? So one of the factors that you guys are going to be considering as you look at climate in the design of a building is going to be cross ventilation. This building has no operable windows, right? So this building has zero capacity for cross ventilation. How many of you, when it's kind of warming up in the spring, open up the windows in your house? You open up the windows to allow air to get through the house, right? So if you think about that, the wind at your house in spring and in fall kind of generally, not always, but it generally comes from a specific direction, right? So would it help if you had openings that faced in that direction versus pointing in the direction opposite of where they're coming from? Would it help if you had windows, right, on two sides of a room that air could come in one and go out the other? I'm guessing your houses aren't designed that way. Your houses are designed to be nice and compact and fit on a standard suburban lot, and they're designed for efficiency of construction rather than for cross ventilation. Okay? I've got a few more minutes before this thing gets too long, so we'll take a look at wind direction. That becomes another kind of crucial thing to understand is where's the wind going to come from and is there a prevailing wind direction? Okay? We'll talk more about that when we look at the wind roses. Water temperature, I don't think we have to worry too much about that. Tourism score, beach pool. Nope. Oops, what the heck happened there? Something happened. I'm trying to look down through here, see what other charts, because they've added a lot of charts since last year. Okay, so that's weatherspark. I'm going to go ahead and stop this video here, and we'll take a look at another resource.